Have you applied to present a paper at a conference in recent weeks? Have you applied for funding to help you with your dissertation research? In my discipline, which is the study of education, more specifically higher education, we are typically applying for these types of things over the summer and into the fall, with results trickling in as the process goes. If you received some positive results lately, well done, congratulations to you. And if some things didn't go as you had hoped, well then I'm hoping that this content on academic rejection might be timely and helpful. And if those applications in recent weeks did work out, I would encourage you to keep on watching, because the reality is that rejection is something that happens to all of us in academia. If we haven't met before, hi, my name is Jacqueline Beaulieu. I'm currently a PhD candidate studying higher education at the University of Toronto, and like many of you, I have navigated my fair share of academic rejections along the way to receiving acceptances. While rejection is very common in academia and sort of comes with the territory, it still can be one of the harder parts of graduate studies and an academic career. So if you'd like my tips for how I navigate rejection when I encounter it, then keep on watching. My first tip is to look for helpful feedback. Sometimes when we submit manuscripts, apply to conferences, apply for jobs, we might receive some helpful feedback in the event that it doesn't work out. That doesn't always happen, but hopefully it does, and if it does, I definitely suggest taking the time to review that feedback in detail and just to try and really mine out what are the good nuggets of knowledge that you can take from that feedback. You likely already know that that type of feedback can contain a lot of helpful clues as to how to improve your applications, your manuscripts when you go to submit them the next time. Keep in mind, if you're feeling upset about the outcome, you might want to give yourself some time and then go back to read the feedback so that you're in a place where you can really, again, mine that feedback for all of the good nuggets of knowledge that you can find. Keep in mind that some feedback that initially appears to be unhelpful might be more helpful when you have some more time to think about it, keep working on your work, you do some more learning, that type of thing. It might make more sense down the road. However, it's very possible that unfortunately you might be on the receiving end of some unhelpful feedback from time to time. If and when that happens, my recommendation is to basically recognize it for what it is and to do what you need to do with that feedback. You might need to rewrite your feedback and to really focus in on those helpful nuggets of knowledge and quarantine the unhelpful stuff, so that because as humans we tend to focus in on the negative things or like the unhelpful things that people have said. We can get kind of really worked up about that, so I'd encourage you to quarantine that stuff and really focus in on the helpful stuff. Another thing is to remember that rejection is a natural part of academic life, inherently because of the way that the academic world has been socially constructed. So many of the people that we look to as people who are earlier on in our academic careers, so many of the people who are more experienced, they have had loads of rejections and we just might not realize it. So often we hear more about successes as opposed to times when we haven't been successful, and one of the main reasons for that is shame. People are worried about what other people will think, especially if the instance was one where perhaps one of their peers was successful in an application, say for a grant or something along that lines, and they weren't. What I try to tell myself and what I share with you is that I think there's no shame in trying. I think that we should be congratulating ourselves for challenging ourselves to put ourselves and our work out there, especially in situations where there's a really good chance it might not receive an initial acceptance. I actually think it's very helpful and healthy in our academic communities to be having these types of conversations, because I think it just helps to normalize what is such a common experience, and in talking about this we help to reduce some of that shame factor. And for those of you who are fans of the shame researcher and author and public speaker Brené Brown, if you think I'm channeling her work right now, I am. So not too long ago, I was on Twitter and I was reading the tweets of a scholar whose work I admire, who has really seemed like they have it really quite put together, some really great productivity and projects. Anyways, they created a blog post on the topic of rejection and talked about all of their academic failings and times when they have been rejected with their work. And it made me feel so much better reading that because, you know, when you see all of this person's successes, you don't necessarily see all of the rejections that sort of were almost basically the pathway in some ways to this person's success. So I really appreciated that they made that blog post, and it helped me to realize that, you know, for everyone, this is sort of part of the journey. It's what happens. And yeah, while, you know, for example, there's that adage of, you know, how one success leads to another in academia. So for example, if you win a smaller grant, you might be further positioned to win a bigger research grant. What it made me realize is that while that may have some truth to it, I think probably the thing that matters the most for success in academia in many ways is your persistence and your willingness to kind of keep going. Also, your ability to master your mindset in an environment where rejection could be around any corner, especially if you're putting yourself out there and applying to opportunities that are of a very challenging nature. Anyone who's doing that, in my books, deserves respect from others, but also from within. Which brings me to tip number 3, which is to reframe rejection as redirection. And that is a phrase that I learned from Brendon Burchard in one of his videos, and I'm really thankful that I was able to learn that very helpful phrase from him. I think that we can help to take the sting out of rejection when we think of it as an opportunity to be redirected to something that may be more suitable. It gives us an opportunity to improve and strengthen our work before we submit it to another venue. And what could happen is the audience in that venue might enjoy the work for whatever reason that much more. So of course there can be issues with this. So for example, if this process is taking a really long time and holds up our ability to share our work with our field and with the public, of course that's a problem. At some point, you know, we might need to be thinking about, okay, you know, do I do something non-traditional with this work? You know, before I put it on a shelf and let it collect dust, you know, can I turn this into a blog, or can I turn this into a workshop for practitioners? So many things. I'd really encourage you to, you know, do what you can to sort of take control of a situation like that and determine what you feel you could do with that work before relegating it to a shelf where it's not going to do very much. You might be surprised of the outcomes of getting creative like that, and know that the people who were the beneficiaries of what you created will thank you for it. My 4th tip is to have multiple projects on the go, so that if something isn't going quite as you'd like with one project, that the energy that you're getting from another project might help to sustain you. I suggest having academic and non-academic projects on the go, including some where you might have a little bit more control over the end outcome. For example, this YouTube channel is one for me. It's been wonderful watching my channel's community grow. It's been wonderful receiving messages from individuals saying, you know, hey, that video was really helpful to me. I really appreciated it. It's been fun watching my skill set grow when it comes to creating sort of digital content, and just it's been kind of therapeutic. Having a project or hobby like this can help us when one aspect of our work lives isn't going quite as we had hoped. Where rejection can consume energy, these types of activities can help replace that energy. And it might not just be projects, you know, think of spending time with your family and friends, think of volunteering, think of exercising and reading books, these types of things. In summary, if academia consumes your life, rejection's gonna be a lot harder, because it's not just gonna feel like this project or this one aspect of my work life is not going as well as I would like. It's gonna feel like life isn't going as well as you'd like. If you can't take a step back from your work, you know, if it sort of becomes who you are, I assure you that rejection is going to feel that much harder. Therefore, I can't stress enough the importance of integrating your scholarship into your life while not letting it become all that you are. And I know from experience how sort of immersive academia can be, and so I'm not saying this in a way to sort of say like, you know, I have this all figured out or anything like that, but I just wish to pass it along as someone who's traveling a similar road that you are. I'd love to hear your tips on what you do to help yourself navigate instances of academic rejection when they happen in the comment section below. If you found the information in this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up so that others who share our interests are more likely to come across the video on YouTube. I also have some really exciting information to share, and that is that our YouTube community recently surpassed 100 subscribers. So thank you so much to all of you who have subscribed. It means so much to me, and I look forward to our community continuing to expand. Let's stay in touch in between videos. I'm on Instagram, and you can find me at my handle at PhD Essentials. In the meantime, wishing you a beautiful and productive week. Bye, friends.